Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the NerdNest podcast. We have the whole band back together today, except for Carrie, who said he's going to show up a little late. And Bob decided that he would join us until Carrie shows up, at least. So down below me, we've got
Then I
Bob
gotta get outta
from
here.
the Wolf Den. Yeah, he's like, he doesn't want to. They might be the same guy,
I
actually.
was going to say, I've
They're
never seen them
from
both
New
in
York,
the same
right?
place. So,
Yeah.
And so down below me, we've got Bob from the Wolf Den. Bob, what's some of your most recent videos or the next video that you're working on?
Oh God. Last week I did a video on the PlayStation Remote Play. And the next one I'm working on is I don't have it right here. It's the 8-bit do mod for the N64 controller that makes it work for the Switch. So you take an old N64 controller, you put a new board in it, and all of a sudden it works for the Switch. So that'll come out on Thursday.
Oh, that's awesome. So,
That's awesome.
so then you don't have to buy the one that's never available from Nintendo.
Yeah, exactly. That one's $50, and it's kind of nice, but you need a Nintendo Switch Online subscription to even buy it, and it's never available. This is a $30 kit, plus you need a controller, so it ends up being like kind of around the same price.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But if you got a controller, then it's a very easy mod to do.
Nice.
Good. Rich, what's your latest video or your next video that you're working on?
yeah. Thanks, by the way, to Emilio, who complimented my shirt. So I'll take that. Yeah, my last video is just another news roundup. I kind of intro with like the handheld wars that we're going through right now. And I just talked through what's new with Steam Deck. Like Decky Loader got a new plugin, got a new update. So now you can update all plugins at once. I thought that was pretty cool. And I also talk about Next Fest a bit. So yeah, fun episode.
All right, and we'll be talking a little bit about Next Fest today if we have time later on. Kyle, what have you been working on, man?
I haven't done anything for a little bit, but I'm starting to work on a video where I test a whole bunch of different, or every SSD option for the Steam Deck and seeing performance implications and how it affects load times and everything.
Oh, awesome. That sounds really cool. I still have yet to upgrade the SSD in my Steam Deck. That's something that I'd like to do, but I haven't decided to spend that money yet. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching that video before I spend my money. Russ, what have you been working on? I know you got a lot of pans in the fire right now.
I have so many devices to review, and it's weird. I have so many that causes me to burn out, so I have to work on other stuff just to get through the rest. So I did a Pimax Portal video. That was the most recent one, and that's like an Android handheld that has VR capabilities. And so I did a video on that, and then I'm working on a couple others right now. I'm going to do a mini PC review first, and then probably the iNeo 2S next.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. All right. So if you guys don't know, this is the NerdNest podcast. Each week we sit down, we talk about gaming news. We talk about the games that we've been playing. Today, in addition to talking about the gaming news, we're going to talk about what we feel like is the best handheld experience, because there's a lot of different experiences out there. We've got Android as an experience, we have Windows as an experience, and we have Linux, and I'm sure that there's a bunch of others, and a lot of us do a lot of handheld stuff. So I figured this was an idea that Russ came up with, and I figured that's a really great idea. So let's start off the show with that. What is the best handheld experience so far for you, and why? Rich, I'm going to start off with you. You've started to get into more handhelds and having a bunch of different stuff that's not just Linux. How are you feeling about which one's your favorite these days?
My favorite might still be the Steam Deck. So the iNeo 2S is creeping up for me. I'm still in the middle of that review. It's got really good performance. I already really like the iNeo 2 form factor, but my thoughts on this are really that my favorite is just x86 in general, even though I think it's the worst. In terms of performance for specifically emulation, it's really, really bad. But what I like about x86 is that it has everything, right? I can play my PC games, I can emulate old stuff. So the user experience is not great, although Steam Deck brings it up to sort of manageable. But the fact that I can play anything at any time is what just brings me to x86. That's why I haven't really gotten into like Android emulation very deeply. I haven't gotten into just dedicated retro devices because I also want to play my PC games at the same time.
Yeah, so you're saying you don't want to have a dedicated device for emulation. You want to have one thing, one item to rule them all, essentially.
Yes, absolutely.
Where do you land on that, Bob? Do you like to have your devices separated as unitaskers, or do you want to have like one thing that does it all?
I mean, if I wasn't doing this for like YouTube, I would probably want one thing that does everything. And I think the Steam Deck is the all-encompassing device. But because I buy a device, make a video on it, and then it goes on the shelf, I end up having specific devices for different use cases. So I do think that the Steam Deck is like the guy. That's like the perfect one. It does emulation great. It plays most of the PC games that I would want to play pretty much perfect. It's easy to just pick up and just get something going. But I've also been really liking Android devices. For some reason, I'm drawn to how easy it is to tweak certain emulation settings in Android, how easy it is to use different emulator apps, how easy it is to get a front end going on Android. And I think I just really like the form factor of Android devices versus the form factor of a giant Steam Deck. So, yeah, I like the Steam Deck as a device, but I also like Android as a little bit. So I've been leaning towards the
ended for some reason.
Oh no.
That's okay. YouTube lets you resume it.
YouTube's good at that.
Not sure what happened there. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube, we are back. I think maybe middle of our conversation, we were talking about the idea of, what is your best, the best handheld experience. Bob was talking about using Android as the Razer Edge.
And ease of use in terms of what I need to accomplish. So also, there's just a greater versatility of devices that are available on that platform without where that comes out, so that you're just always at whatever.
Kyle, that you are
Linux and Android, but I will say Linux is definitely my favorite.
All right, I am not recording. I am only streaming at this point, and for everybody who is
we're back.
And we're back. Yeah. For everybody who is watching this and stuck through it through the beginning, I apologize for the technical difficulties. My computer couldn't handle all of the greatness that is on the screen, so it died. But that's okay. We're going to continue. I think I may have a solution at this point. Kyle, you were saying.
I was saying I prefer Linux over Android. I like them both. I prefer Linux because it's very customizable and it's much thinner than Windows, and you can kind of bend it to your will for like an OEM, as Valve did for the Steam Deck. So it's a whole experience rather than like icing on a cake that is Windows.
Okay, and Russ, you have a million handhelds at your beck and call all the time. Which operating system is the one that you're like, well, I really hope this one comes with this operating system?
Yeah, it's really hard because none of them are perfect or even close to it. Like each one has its like great strengths and weaknesses. So like Windows, yeah, I can play everything, but setting it up takes a while. And even then, like you'll never get to the point where you don't are constantly reminded that you're on a Windows machine, right? It's very hard to get to that point. But meanwhile, something like SteamOS is amazing. It just does all the back end work for you, which is kind of great. But at the same time, you can't play every little thing and whatnot. Implementing other kind of formats can be kind of a pain, trying to get like specific, like playing Destiny 2 on a Steam Deck, things like that. But then Android is like, it's got all the battery saving issues and stuff, like it's so efficient, but also like I can't, play a Wii U game on it. It doesn't have an emulator for that, things like that. So I don't know. I think I would probably just go with Windows, accepting the fact that it just causes a lot of extra work and whatnot. But once you get it tweaked, like it can be pretty great of an experience. I wish that the custom Linux firmwares, things like Batocera and Jealous and things like that, I wish they were just a little bit more robust, and it probably is just going to take time. Like, for example, Batocera doesn't have TDP controls on it. So it's great that you can like boot, Batocera into the Steam Deck, but your power is going to be all over the place. And so things like that just kind of hold it back as well. And no perfect solution, but Windows at least gives you the tools that you need.
So for me, my first PC handheld was the Steam Deck, and I was really nervous about it because it was Linux, and I haven't used Linux since like 1999. It was a really long time, and I expected that to be a really bad experience, and it wasn't. It was awesome. It was very console-like, and as somebody who just I don't have time to screw around with fighting with an operating system, I was very, very pleasantly surprised at how well SteamOS works. Notice I'm saying SteamOS, not Linux, even though SteamOS is Linux. It's just because I'm not going into desktop mode very often. And so when they announced the ROG Ally, and I got that, and I was like, okay, it's going to have Windows. I've used Windows for a million years, but oh my God, like just setting it up without a mouse and keyboard is an absolute nightmare. And I know that we were talking, Russ, and you were like, well, I just get out a mouse and keyboard when I set it up. And I was like, well, you shouldn't have to do that. And we had the rumors that Microsoft was working on a handheld first UI for Windows. I know that was part of Code Jam, but do we think that that's something that we'll actually see happen in the near future? What do you think, Rich?
I think if handhelds like Ally and other OEMs come into the scene, I think they're going to have to. That's the thing. I think that a lot of people that are really big fans of the Steam Deck, they see the Steam Deck and they're like, Windows has no chance of doing that. And I'm not quite that extreme. I think that Microsoft can make it work if they actually tried. They haven't tried to make a handheld let's say a handheld or big screen interface for their operating system. I think that there are other things to take into account that will never get it possibly to where SteamOS is. But overall, I think that they can do a lot better than what they're doing today if they actually tried. And I think they will.
See, my confidence level in that dropped significantly after I got my hands on the Ally, because they were at the announcement. They were in that fake interview talking about stuff, and then I loaded up Game Pass and I tried to install Forza Horizon 5, and every time I go to start the game, it just crashes. I can't believe that Microsoft had such a hand in this device, or at least it seemed like it, and I can't even launch a Game Pass game. And people were leaving messages in my community Discord, and they were like, oh, you got to reset your time and then uninstall the Xbox app and then reset the Xbox app and re-download the Xbox app and then change your time zone so it doesn't automatically. You got to do 48 steps. And I was like,
right.
That's crazy to me. Carrie, do you think that Microsoft is going to get in and make a handheld first experience here?
All right, there's a bunch to unpack here, so I'm going to try to just go through it as fast as I can. There's a lot to kind of understand what's going on with a lot of handheld PCs. Many of them, including the Steam Deck, use portrait-based displays. I don't think Windows has any real care in the world to support these bespoke kind of instances, Steam Deck being the largest install base of any type of handheld that has a portrait-based display. This presents problems for how the keyboard is getting stretched out after the rotation happens, because it's still kind of understanding that it's a portrait-based display, which has a worse overall virtual keyboard. So that's one issue. And I don't know if Microsoft will actually care, especially because the Ally is a native landscape screen. So I think Microsoft would rather just say, no, you guys need to use landscape screens and we don't need to be doing this type of stuff. However, the UX and other stuff they do need to work on. The Xbox app does have issues, but on the same token, there's a lot of people that really just have this Windows is bloated. And generally speaking, that's not true. There are PCs that people buy that has a bunch of crap installed on it, but that's not Windows. That's crap installed on top of Windows. And there is telemetry and other stuff that you're doing in there, but there's a lot of people that just aren't looking at any particular settings when they look at debloating scripts, and they just fire and forget and kill off Windows Update, kill Windows Firewall. They're killing all these services that they might not need. But guess what? Xbox app kind of needs those to be running. Those are dependencies. And the problem is that Microsoft does a very poor job explaining that to the user. So when you click on something and nothing happens, there's no real log or anything that flashes inside of your face that's like, you have this disabled, you have this disabled. Please enable those things if you want to use the Xbox apps to any degree. So there's, the thing about date time stuff, that's just standard cryptography. Like that stuff needs, if you just make your date time wrong and go to any web page, you're going to get flashed in the face that security is not working. So that's just part and parcel with the whole kit and caboodle. So there's like things that we need to kind of like unpack here, that there is this standard belief that Windows is bloated. And I'm not saying that it can't be better, but there are ways to look at this and make sure that what you're trying to run, and you're not trying to have something run in the background while a game is running, because that will actually impact performance insofar as taking away performance to any particular degree, where you're trying to be as efficient as possible. Linux does a much better job of this because you can be very, very granular with what you're looking to do. SteamOS does a very much way better job of this. I'm not going to contend that SteamOS is just as good, but there is this large degree where it's just, well, Windows is bloated, and it's kind of this like dismissive thing that everyone just instantly says that I fundamentally disagree with. So those are like things that they have to fundamentally make better. The Xbox app itself might need to just be thrown away, or if the Microsoft Blizzard Activision thing comes to pass, they should adopt BattleNet as their launcher. I don't know. I do agree that it's not good because they try to do a lot of things there. How they do it is like kind of counterintuitive. When you're creating virtual storage repositories for games to load in, they're actually device files that are opening up, so there'll be extra storage, and that's not very intuitive. And people don't know to go there. Like, oh, I can't uninstall this game. This thing is just always taking up space. And it's like, well, you just go into Device Manager and just delete that. But no one. I agree that's a bad user experience. So there are things that they need to like come to grips with, and that might be just a giant bureaucratic problem rather than a software problem, because of the teams that are involved in like who says what, and there's key stakeholders that want to do certain things. So that whole thing, just to kind of like sum up this whole thing of what I was just saying, is I don't know if they'll do it. I think they should, but that's I don't think it's a technical problem that is the hurdle. It is rather the bureaucratic hurdle that they would need to cross.
I never really felt like Windows is bloated if you just installed like the demo, like not the demo, the default stuff, but their UI on a handheld is hot garbage on a stick. It is really bad experience. Bob,
tablet mode on Windows is bad.
You loving Windows on your ROG Ally? I know you got one because I saw it in one of your videos recently.
Yeah, the ROG Ally is my favorite Windows experience that I've had so far, and I haven't really dabbled too much in that many different Windows handhelds. But yeah, it's the UI that's the issue. Like it's not meant for a touch screen or a small device at all. Getting a Windows handheld and turning it on for the first time, yeah, you got to plug in a keyboard and mouse and stuff in order to do all of the stuff that you want to do. You don't want just a Windows desktop. You want to download some games and stuff, and that's gonna require all these different launchers. None of the launchers are set up for the handheld experience. You're gonna need a mouse. It's much easier with a keyboard too, because you're gonna need to type in your email and password for all these different launchers and stuff. So that's the thing that needs to be streamlined is the UI experience. And I've been saying for years it would be so great if there was some sort of Xbox handheld out there. But the way that Microsoft operates, they kind of just let other people make hardware for their software. So they're doing that now. And I think it would make the most sense for them to just make a better like launcher or like a better UI for Windows that just works with all these handhelds that are coming out. And I think it's on Microsoft's radar. I think that it's, we saw the leak of the pitch, the internal pitch that you were just talking about. I for sure think that's something that could make it into the pipeline in the future, especially with the how popular the Steam Deck is and stuff. So I think that's coming. It just will probably be a while until it makes it to the public, but that will open up a lot of doors for a lot more Windows handheld stuff. I think a lot more people will be interested in Game Pass. You won't actually need an Xbox to enjoy Xbox stuff. You can just have a handheld like this and then get Game Pass and then just download whatever you want, assuming that Game Pass is more streamlined, because you said you were having problems with Game Pass.
And Bob,
there's a lot of problems.
You said the Ally, and you like it better than the Neo, and you also had it like pretty. You had them pretty far apart on the jank spectrum.
Oh
Forgot
yeah,
about that.
oh yeah, oh
So,
yeah,
like-
man, yeah.
Yeah, tell me about that. Tell me about that.
Okay, so part of it's very hard to like remove myself a little bit because the reviewers got the ROG Ally already set up, and that made it feel less janky than it probably is. But I kind of liked the Asus launcher that they had, the Armory Crate. When I first previewed it at an event like a month before the Ally like came out, it was a little buggy and broken and weird. Like I liked the idea of the Armory Crate launcher. Once you turn the device on, it loads up a Steam Deck-like interface, which has like tiles for all of your games. You click on one and it opens it. But it was slow and weird. Now it's a lot better. And Steam Big Picture mode now is basically just a Steam Deck. So a lot about it has been way more streamlined. The front end on the Aya Neo is hot garbage. That thing sucks, and it doesn't like recognize games the way that it should. It's bad. So that's part of why the Aya Neo gets so far at the low end of the jank spectrum.
I really like on Armory Crate, since you brought it up, Bob, I really like how, I don't remember which tab it's under. I think it's the one all the way to the right, where they have the other stores. And so if you're like, oh, I want to install, like, well, I think Steam's pre-installed, but if you want to install like, what's the...
GOG.
Yeah, the GOG or one of those. You just go over there, push a button, it automatically goes to the website and tries to download it for you. Like, they definitely did what they could, but Microsoft, like not Microsoft, but Windows is still kind of getting in the way, I think, a little bit. What do you think about Armory Crate, Russ?
So I think it's the closest that we have to Windows Big Picture mode, which I think is exactly what I really want to see, you know. And so it has dedicated buttons on the ROG Ally to bring those things up, which is, again, like super awesome, right? And so you can bring up the left slider to be able to make your quick changes, but then also the right one to bring up Armory Crate itself. And so I really do appreciate that. And I think that's the problem is that each of these manufacturers come up with their own little front end. The Aya Space one's terrible. 1X Player one's terrible. Like, all of them are pretty bad. It's like death by a thousand cuts. Like, we just need one. And right now, like before the Armory Crate like came out for the ROG Ally, my usual go-to was just to use Steam Big Picture mode and then add all the other things that I wanted to launch in Steam as a non-Steam game. And so if I wanted to open up Yuzu or whatever, then I would launch it through there. Now, EMUDeck is coming out for Windows. That's going to be my Sunday video, actually, as a guide for that. And that'll simplify it how it is on the Steam Deck too. So that way within Steam, you can also launch your retro games like directly through it. So that's going to be awesome too. But again, it's like, I have to make a guide for it. You know, it's not going to be something intuitive. And so there's no solution to it. But I do think that Armory Crate is one of those where I almost feel like I can stay within that ecosystem, which is pretty awesome.
I'm really excited I'm really excited for EMUDeck on Windows, because that was my favorite front end and experience for installing it. You just click a button and everything's there. It's freaking awesome. So I want that on Windows so bad.
It works very, very similarly. So you have the same kind of setup, and he's got this new kind of thing. I forgot what he's calling it, like Game Center or something. But basically, you can run a batch file that when you start up Windows, before the Windows desktop loads, it'll load EMUDeck instead, or Steam. And so at that point, before you get to any of the other processes that really bog down the Windows experience, you'll just launch into a Steam console, which will then have all your retro stuff and games available without all the back-end stuff loading up. And then when you close out of it, then it'll boot into the Windows desktop.
That's so awesome.
And you're not going to have to, like, you don't have, like, he's going to put Russ out of business because he's not going to be able to make guides. Like, when I got my Steam Deck, I just installed EMUDeck, and it was so easy. And then when I bought my Retroid Pocket Flip, like, I had to go to Russ's videos in his website, retrogamecore.com, and like go through. And then I was really lazy, so I even had to, like, I sent Russ a message, hey man, I can't figure this stuff out. What do I do? And he's like, he copied and pasted parts from his guide and sent it to me so that I would read it again because I wasn't doing it right the first time. Yes. I haven't put any emulation stuff on the Ally yet.
Yeah.
Because I'm waiting for EMUDeck, because that's going to make is just going to make it so much easier. Kyle, you're a little more hackery than I am. So do you care about EMUDeck coming, or you're like, I'm just going to do it my way anyway?
No, I care about it. I use EMUDeck on my Steam Deck, despite knowing how to set all the emulators up and everything. It is just that easy. You don't have to worry about anything. You just press update, go, which is one of my favorite things about the Linux experience versus the Windows experience. I hate the going into every app and updating it, or going to random web pages and downloading exe files. I hate that. So just having the one to go is the best case scenario, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I was talking about the Retroid Pocket Flip. Like I had to go in and do a whole bunch of stuff, and nothing was like I couldn't get certain games to load because I probably didn't put the BIOS in the right place. And you don't have to do any of that when you've got EMUDeck. And I know that they're working on EMUDeck for Android, aren't they? But it's a little restricted because Android's a little more closed down than the other operating systems.
Yeah, it's a little bit different because you can't like make an EMUDeck app in the App Store because of the requirements for the permissions and whatnot. And so he actually was working on that first before even the Steam Deck launch. We were working together on that. He wasn't calling it EMUDeck back then, obviously. But so that's also in the works, is to have an Android version and Mac at some point too. Oh,
nice. Mac too. Awesome. All right. So real quick, in Beyond ESP joined, and I just unfavorited their comment, so I can't find it now. They asked if we had compared, here it is, joined late, did they compare the GDP Win products, Win 4, Win Max, etc.? Fox, I know that you do a lot of GPD stuff. Of those, like, what's your favorite GDP device?
So I'm definitely more in the WinMax territory. It's not a lot of people. There's a forever debate if there's a real handhelds or not. I consider them the real handhelds. I'm actually using it right now, so it's connected to my 4090 right now through Oculink. So it is by far the most versatile and complete solution that I need, so that it's my laptop when I need it to be, and it's my handheld when I need it to be. So by far, I am that. But I know a lot of people have concerns that it's too large. So the Win 4 is actually a really nice device for how small it is. I'm really looking forward to the GPD Win Mini that's coming out, which looks to be the only pocketable type of device with a 7840U coming relatively soon.
So here's a question for the panel. Do you guys think these devices come out too often? Rich?
Oh, hell yeah.
I heard a chorus and I'm singing with this chorus. I agree. Yeah, it's way too much for me to keep up with. Russ's mental health is deteriorating because of the
overwhelming.
pace. Yeah, I can't imagine that for consumers. It's easy to keep up with. It's too much. And specifically, the problem that I had, I made a video. I got a lot of backlash for it. I made a video it was basically a 1X player review, and I think it was titled, "They Keep Making These." And it was just me putting those feelings like on display, which I think, maybe a reviewer isn't supposed to do. So that's kind of why I got the backlash. But it was like the feeling I was getting specifically from that particular handheld was that there wasn't anything to separate this from the bunch. And it must be tough to be a handheld manufacturer and try to make something that separates it from the bunch, but you kind of have to at this point. What separates, and that's why I love GPD, regardless of which one is my favorite. I love that GPD always has a distinct personality to their handhelds with having keyboards or something like that. It may not be a handheld, or it may be a handheld. You can have that debate, but a GPD is a GPD, and I like that about it.
So when I say, do they come out too often? Obviously, the answer is yes. I mean, what's the right cadence for one company to release devices? Because we get companies like Ion Neo that has like the Ion Neo Next, Ion Neo Odin Loki Plus. They got all these different things. I could not tell you what the latest one is. And then we got like Valve. They brought out the Steam Deck. They're like, it's going to be years before we bring out the next Steam Deck. So what do you guys think is the right cadence for devices like this from one company to update to the next iteration? Kyle, do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I would say probably once every 2 or 3 years. I think that meets a good balance of keeping on the cutting edge and being able to actually support your products. Um, and for that reason, I think that's why we see so many giant leaps in, for instance, like Mac performance. They only release them every couple of years, so you get this massive performance boost every time, and it feels substantial. And they can support their products. So I think that's what I'm going to stick with.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't think they can do that because they learn from their mistakes, and the mistakes are the devices they release. You know what I mean? And so they need us to basically be beta testers every 3 months when they release a new one. The fact that Bill confused Aya Neo and AYN, which is a very easy thing to confuse, right? Yeah. He said Loki with Aya Neo, that says so much about how many of these things are saturating the market. But each of these companies need to learn from their mistakes, and to learn from them, they have to release devices. Whereas we as consumers are just seeing every 3 weeks there's a new one. And so it's too much. Yeah. But I don't see, Valve can do it. They can spend years, and Asus can too, right? They can spend years getting it right and then releasing a device and then getting all that testing feedback and make another one. Neo can't do that. They just okay, here's another new idea. Let's throw this one out there, see how this one works. Okay, next.
As a counterpoint, I would say that would be fine if they weren't charging $1,500 for a device for you to beta test.
No, I agree.
Also, if they were learning from their mistakes, because a lot of times it feels like they're regressing when they release something new.
Right. Ambernick is the worst when it comes to that. They're doing a 6840U or 7840U handheld 701, Win 701, and they don't know what they're doing. I am so worried about that. They're going to charge $1,200 for that thing, and it's going to have so many dumb issues with it because they don't listen to people and they don't learn from their mistakes.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
And they all start with A. I had this conversation with my friend Emilio.
Right.
Aya, Ein, Ambernick, Ally,
it's 1980s phone book, yellow book, Strats. That's it. It's just everything A, AA, AAA, whatever. It's just 1980s yellow book Strats. That's all. I don't know why that they're still doing it that way, because it hasn't been a thing. But yeah, it's a weird thing that I've noticed as well.
So, Rich, are you ready for a new Steam Deck as the Steam Deck guy? Are you ready?
No, not at all. So I definitely want it to be sometime between a Steam Deck and a Steam Deck 2. I don't know what the right amount of time is. My gut feeling says at least 3 years. Here's my thing. I think that Deck Verified already has problems, and I wish that they would solve them before we get to a Steam Deck 2, but regardless, Deck Verified is meant to target one specific SKU. And if we introduce a Steam Deck 2, it gets muddied very quickly. And so I would like a Steam Deck 2 in a couple of years, and I would like for Deck Verified to take that into account somehow, and for it to still be clear when a game is compatible with the Steam Deck 1 versus a game being compatible with the Steam Deck 2.
Bob, you looking to get a new Steam Deck, or are you just happy to have it sit the way it is?
I really kind of want a sleeker, more thinner, more streamlined Steam Deck. I really don't think we need touchpads on the Steam Deck. It's just a waste of space. But I do want them to take a little bit of time on it. I don't want them to release it anytime soon. And I think Valve can do that because they sell the software. They get you in their ecosystem. They'll make money on the software for a long time. I think all these other hardware companies are hardware companies, so they feel like they have to make money on the hardware and keep churning out these things. And that's why we see part of why we see so many of them, because they can't make money after they sell you the hardware. That's it. Right. They have to sell you another hardware.
Right.
I think for Ambernick and Ein and all these other companies, I think the bare minimum should be a year. Yearly make a new console. And if you want to try some fun new things, do it yearly or have them be really different, very, very different. And they just have not been doing that because they want to try to make as much money as possible.
And when you name them, put a number after them so we know which one's the newest one, because I can't keep track of this stuff.
Put a number and then a plus and then a minus. And
Bob, you ruined it.
I would be okay with like just a mini, right? Like or some sort of iteration on the existing Steam Deck. It's the same power profile, all of that, but maybe you get a bezel-less OLED screen and you have no trackpads, so a smaller profile. I think that would be great.
Yeah.
We had a super chat come in from Jason. Thank you very much for that. They said, when are we going to see an OLED 7 to 8 inch handheld other than the Switch? The performance on all of these is great, but I need that OLED screen. Carrie, how important is OLED to you?
Oh, super important. Like, it's critical. I've been asking for this for a while. When Nintendo made their OLED one, I actually reached out to GPD and I was like, dude, if you guys can get like B stock of this panel, please get it immediately and just shove it into anything. But even since it's come out, I have not seen any real B grade stock of Switch OLED panels. You look at the replacement cost of OLED panels for the Switch, and they're still very high. So it's cost prohibitive for them to use these types of panels. OLED is extremely huge. Actually, I have a video that I'm going to be doing soon for the Ally for BFI black frame insertion. So if you go anything over like 60 hertz, you can do like 120 hertz and do BFI. OLED looks sick with BFI. If you want to get something that's close to like CRT type of clarity on your eyes, it's just like the absolute best. And the Ally can do it. So I'm going to be doing a video on that. But yeah, so OLED is supreme. OLED is king, and I'm in agreement.
Kyle, OLED, you really want OLED, or are you okay with LCD, especially if it's a little cheaper?
I would like OLED in the next generation. I don't think it's as critical as Carrie was saying, but I would like to see it.
Fight!
I mean, the prices are already out of control for a lot of these things. The whole PC market is crazy right now. So jacking up the price for an OLED screen that only some people are going to care about is probably not a great idea right now, at least.
So I think OLED is...
Go ahead, Russ.
OLED's an amazing idea for the Steam Deck because of the lower resolution on the Steam Deck. I mean, like the Nintendo Switch OLED looks so glorious, even though it's still 720p. And so I think that's a really good way to refresh like that kind of feeling of the Steam Deck, is to give it that OLED panel. I'm the same way. Like I it's cool for like 2 seconds when I first use it, but then my eyes just adjust to it and I don't really notice the difference anymore when I'm playing OLED. And so, but I do think that will probably be one of the benefits if we do go OLED with the Steam Deck Mini or whatever.
Bob, do you appreciate OLED? Or are you somebody like Russ that's like, that's really cool. All right, moving on with my life.
You know, I used to say that I didn't appreciate it. Like, whatever, it's cool. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But now I start to miss it when I don't have it. Like, when I see a display like the Steam Decks and I'm playing a game that's got a really dark contrast and it's like all gray and washed out because it's not in OLED. And I end up missing, my cool looking Switch. But that being said, if it's significantly cheaper to not include OLED, I'm fine with that too, as long as I'm benefiting in some way.
Can I just step in really quick? Bob, I just want to say thank you so much for your video on the work you've done on the OLED, showing it just on that static screen forever.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
when you did that video, I was like, thank goodness. So that was I'm very appreciative that you did that.
It's
It's really bad. It's gotten really bad.
When's the next video coming out for that?
Maybe at a year. People keep asking me about it, and it's just so boring to make a video. Like, here it is, it's worse.
I think you should sign off. Every video, Bob always. Oh God!
Wow.
Ooh,
Oh yeah, you can see it.
It's much worse in real life, but it's.
But how many hours is that at now?
It was the week that it came out. So, what year was that? That was 2021. October 2021 was when it started.
That's a bunch of hours. That's like fine by me for how many. Yeah, that's like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I would send this in if it was like this. Like you could probably play a game and only see it a little bit.
It's crazy.
I'm just really appreciative of the video because it was just definitive proof that we needed. Because there's always like this online argument of whenever OLED came in, they're like burn in. So I just feel like that's been a fantastic example. So thank you very much for your work.
Thank you for that. I part of me really wanted it to last like a week. just look horrible after that week, but it's been over a year. It's doing great. I consider it doing great.
Yeah. Nobody is going to use their a device for that long,
Yeah.
like that many hours. It's just it's a crazy amount to have that little amount of burn in. It's so impressive.
It definitely settled some arguments for sure. And it was a concern to me because you look at, like old like Android phones and people get like the thumbprint scanner like burned in and stuff. So I was like, oh, this thing's going to burn in no problem. But no, OLED technology has gotten really good. I was kind of shocked by it.
We got another super chat came in from Emma Stone. They said the trackpads. I'm with Akana, not Emma. I'm with Akana because Bob was blaspheming a little bit ago. The trackpads are one of the most important things on the deck. It allows a larger game compatibility. I doubt Valve will drop it. Thank goodness, in my opinion.
What game? What game you playing? What are we doing? Are you doing your taxes on your Steam Deck? Why do you need that?
I have played programming puzzle games on the Steam Deck, so
nerd.
It looks the same. It looks the same. Like, yeah, Factorio. It's great. It looks the same as doing your taxes on a Steam Deck. So yes, I've done that.
I personally like it and I can't name a specific game, but games that are made with a keyboard and mouse in mind. Where you're like, okay, you got to press the M key to open the map and then the P key to open this. And you got all these different buttons that you press and you can just, you map them to the trackpad as like a little menu that pops up, which is super, super useful. So that's really what I use it for. I don't use it so much for like mouse control in games. But Bob is right. The number of games that's super important for are few and far between. But when you have it and it comes in clutch, you're like, yeah, that was freaking cool. When you can put your thumb on there and a little menu pops up, it's always satisfying. And I really thought when the Steam Deck first got announced, I thought that they would do that with the touchscreen too. Yeah. Where you could put your thumb on the touchscreen and have a menu pop up around your thumb. That would be a good way to get rid of the trackpads in order to make the Steam Deck Slim or whatever it is that you were saying before, Bob. Anybody else have go ahead, Rich. You were about to say something.
Yeah, my namesake Ricardo Williams pointed out that Mario Galaxy plays Mario. We can start that debate here too. Mario Galaxy works better with the trackpads. So Wii emulation, that's a good one for trackpads. I like Wii emulation and trackpads. It's a good
All right, take that, Bob.
What? Hold on. Hold on.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Does the Steam have motion control? Does the Steam Deck have motion controls? Actually,
yeah, it has gyro.
Yeah.
It does. So why? So do that.
Do you think that I find the aiming for Mario Galaxy specifically? I think the aiming is better with the trackpad than gyro.
I mean, I haven't tried it.
I can't stand gyro personally.
Yeah.
The only games that I want to use a mouse and keyboard for are games like Neon White is like a game where I gotta use a mouse and keyboard, and Valorant, which doesn't even work on basically any of these handhelds anyway. And you need a mouse and keyboard. A trackpad just isn't going to cut it. So that's like my cutoff in my brain is like I'm either using a controller or I'm using a mouse and keyboard. I want nothing to do with this trackpad. But I also don't play like RTSs and like Diablo and stuff like that. Maybe it'll open my mind if I play a demo of that on the Steam Deck with the trackpad. But I'm not too sure.
No, it wouldn't, because Diablo is way better with the controller anyway, and everybody in chat can yell at me because I'm saying that. All right. Anybody else have handheld experiences that they want to talk about before we move on to the news for not very long? Okay.
Let's move on.
Yeah. I got a super chat that came in. Any thoughts on Mac gaming? We just had that announcement from... thank you very much for the super chat, Academy Abidi. I'm screwing up your name badly. But we got that announcement that Apple, like, they kind of snuck in. They're kind of doing a Proton style of thing. Do we think that that's actually going to end up with more games on Mac in the future? Rich, what do you think?
So the thing I'm not clear about, and I think I have a guess that Kyle can answer this, is whether or not these run without some sort of extra compilation step. Like, it seems like the developers are supposed to choose to port their game to a Mac using these tools, and not just that all these games can just all of a sudden work on a Mac using these tools. So that's the part I'm confused about. If it can just work, I think that there are plenty of people out there that just own a Mac, and this opens them up to being able to play games. But I don't think that's the case from what I saw.
It can just work, but there's overhead with the translation layer, and then I guess the translation layer requires Rosetta as well. So that's another translation layer, and so I think like games that look, the M1 and M2 Macs are ridiculously powerful, and they were not doing well. They were getting like 15 frames per second in Cyberpunk 2077. So, which I know that's a pretty beefy game, but these are really powerful machines, and they were limping along. Kyle, you have any thoughts on whether or not we'll see? Do you think devs are going to take advantage of this?
I think it's an interesting thing. Apple has positioned it to be a tool for developers to boot their existing games and see if it's worth porting to Mac. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like it's supposed to be like a permanent one-size-fits-all, run this like Proton is. And I think that's probably the most Apple move I've heard in the past 10 years. So I don't love it, but I think that it will probably let some people see that people are trying to game on Mac. So I would say there might be a spike in indie development on Mac, but not necessarily like big AAA games or something.
Do you think this opens the door for like homebrew stuff? Like somebody could make some sort of tool to make that conversion a little bit easier?
Possibly. I haven't looked into the Metal API, so I'm not sure what the porting process is, but it's possible they could, especially given the source code. They might learn how to do that better than they previously knew how.
See, I think that they wouldn't want, like, Apple doesn't want that to happen, though, because they don't care about gaming unless it's sold on their store.
So don't take my word for this or quote me on this, but I thought I recalled Heroic looking to achieve this through their launcher.
Wow, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect it, but that would be really interesting. All right, let's move on to, I'm so happy, like, we have Bob here on the show, and, like, this was planned before there was a Nintendo Direct announced, and he has a podcast called the Nintendo Podcast. If you have not watched it, watch the damn thing. It's awesome. Or listen to it, however it is you want to consume your shows. Let's move on and talk about that Direct that's going to be happening. I had to close Chrome because my computer couldn't do anything. So I don't know when things are anymore. I'm just going from memory. When is the Direct? Does anybody know?
It is tomorrow, June 21st at, I can't do math, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Okay, so 10 a.m. Eastern. Bob, do you have any predictions about the Nintendo Direct or hopes and dreams instead?
This kind of came out of left field. I mean, it shouldn't have, because it's like kind of when E3 was supposed to be. So like they were probably going to have something anyway. I don't know. I have no idea. There's a rumor that there's going to be a 2D Mario game, which would be very nice. That's the thing that I'm very interested in. I'm really hoping, selfishly, for some, maybe like a new Nintendo 64 game for Nintendo Switch Online, just because I got a video coming out on Thursday on the Nintendo 64 controller. So that would be sick. But I also think there's a rumor that they're they're launching some big Super Nintendo game or something
like a remake.
Yeah, so that's the word. So otherwise, I have no idea. I think it's going to be a lot of Pikmin 4, and people are probably going to be largely disappointed because it's a Nintendo Direct. Everybody's always disappointed, but I think that Nintendo isn't really going to announce anything too big because I think they're holding out for a next console sometime, like next year.
Do you guys think we finally get our hands on the thing that's been rumored for ages, and that's that Zelda collection, so that we then have what are the ones that we're missing right now? All the ones that Bob hates.
All of them. That's all. That's every one of them.
All right. So all the ones that Bob hates. So do you guys think we'll finally get that Zelda collection for the Switch this year, seeing as how it's the year of Zelda? Carrie?
I certainly hope so. So like we were talking about like Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD that basically
Yeah,
like
and then
ports of the Wii U version, right?
yeah,
I would love it if they came to Switch. I have the Wii U versions, but my Wii U is like packed away, so I don't really have that anywhere available. I guess I could just emulate it if I really wanted to. I would rather it come to the Switch. I think it should. That's yes, yes, please.
yes, please. Kyle is our local Zelda super fan. Are you buying that day one, or you're like, I played these games 1,000 times. I don't need to rebuy that.
If it comes out, I'm buying it day one. I don't know that it will come out. I hope that it will, but I'm buying it day one if it does.
That's fair. Russ, what about you? You have any predictions for the Nintendo Direct?
I'm very interested to hear about that Super Nintendo remake and what it's going to be. I've heard rumblings that it might be Chrono Trigger, but I don't know. I'd love to see an F-Zero. Like that's what I'd really like to see.
Carrie,
so, yeah.
I'm calling you out, Carrie. This was great. In the middle of the day, because I'm sitting there grading tests, right? And Carrie sends a message. He's like, guys, there's a Chrono Trigger remake coming. I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. And I went back to what I was doing. And then a few minutes later, never mind, this is not credible. And it was just a bunch of stuff.
Read through it and going through it.
Worse and worse.
Yeah. Someone linked it to me like, it's happening. And I read them like, oh, because they said like a Nintendo Direct was coming. And I looked at the blog post and I was like, did they call the Direct? Do they know something? And I'm like reading through some of the blog posts. This guy's just full of it.
It sounded great though. HD 2D Chrono Trigger. I would love that. That would be fantastic.
Oh man, that would be amazing.
I mean, especially for me, because I've never played the original Chrono. Well, okay, I've played the first 20 minutes of Chrono Trigger. I never played the whole game, so I want to play it in HD 2D.
Yeah, absolutely.
What were you saying, Carrie?
No. I'm a big fan of Chrono Trigger. It's a little bit hard to play today because of all like the type of JRPG that it is. I loved it when I was a kid when I played it. I would love that. I'm a big fan of 2D HD games. Like every 2D HD game that comes out, no matter what it is, Octopath Traveler or Triangle Strategy, I love it. Or Live I'll Live, however you pronounce that. Huge fan of just the style. And for whatever reason, it's basically the same mechanics, but I still just love going through it. So yeah, if it was Chrono Trigger with 2D HD remade, I would be flipping. That would be awesome.
Rich,
there's a tweet.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, there's a tweet out there that I love that it's like, these games are neither HD nor 2D, and that's what we call them. And it's true. They're neither of those things, but I still like the name. It's a good name.
Yeah.
Well, I love the lighting effects in those Octopath games. So give me more 2D games that look like that because they're just gorgeous. Please. I just want you know what I really want to see? I want to see like a Paper Mario in that style with that lighting effects. I think that would look really fantastic. You know what else would look fantastic is not my prediction, but my wish list. And you know what? It may happen because I just got an OLED Switch. An OLED Switch Lite, because that's what I would really want is an OLED Switch Lite. And if Nintendo can say, hey, we can sell people another thing that they've already bought 12 times, then that's what they're going to do. Would we get another video from you, Bob, about the Switch Lite so you can have a new thumbnail?
I mean, you know what? I would definitely make a video on it no matter what. But if it's a different panel, it might be worth doing another 2-year-long test.
1,000%.
I mean, the next time Nintendo makes a device, and if it has OLED, I'm just gonna have a million of these things laying around now on all of the time. My power bill is gonna go through the roof.
Are you gonna put them in the oven though?
Maybe. If Nintendo tweets again that you're not supposed to put it out in the heat, I'm doing exactly what they say not to do. I'm putting it in the goddamn oven.
That was great. So real quick, we got a super chat from Nicholas Chi. They said, Gyro and Flick Stick, our Steam controllers, completely changed my gaming habits for the better. What novel controllers or controller features are you guys looking for? And we're going to be wrapping up pretty soon, so we're going to have to go fast. Russ, is there any different controllers that you really, really love?
So, I kind of follow more traditional routes, but there is a new GameSir controller that's coming out. It's like the G7 SE. They just announced it the other day. And it's going to be the first Xbox controller with like Hall sensor sticks and triggers. And so that's going to be kind of amazing. But I've heard that they've gotten rid of the buttons. And I think that Carrie did a video on the GameSir G7, didn't like the buttons, but I do. They're like mini arcade buttons. So they're very clicky and like feel like a mouse click. And so I really like those. But I think they got rid of them and did just the typical like rubber membrane. So it's not innovative in any way, but I do like the fact that it's like all the features in one for an Xbox controller. So that's kind of awesome for me.
Bob, you make videos about controllers all the time. Is there what features would your perfect controller have?
I'm a sucker for a nice thick click. I look for that tactile feedback. I want it to push up against me when I'm pressing it. I want to know when I've pressed it. So I really like the Razer Edge came with the new Kishi, and that has like mouse clicks in it, and that feels
the same buttons that I was talking about. Yeah.
That comes from where that comes from, right? It comes from your experience in New York pizzeria arcades. You needed to like push down as hard as possible
the
on
grease
those.
is caked in.
Exactly. Absolutely.
You got to break the seal when you want to play it.
1,000%. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I look for. I look for a nice click. Yeah.
Have you guys seen this controller before? And for the audio listeners, I'm holding up the Alpaca controller.
That looks like you printed that.
It is a 3D printed controller. It's got a scroll wheel instead of a right stick. It has 2 gyros in it. I made a video on this a while back, but the area between the face buttons is capacitive. So all of your mouse looking, it's made for PCs. All of your mouse looking is done with gyro. And it sounds terrible, but it is unbelievably intuitive as you start playing it, because you can make little tiny motions, but you can also make big sweeping motion because it has 2 gyros. And so has any raise your hand if anybody's seen this or used it before?
I've seen it, yes.
Okay, nobody but me's used this thing. You guys got to check this thing out. It's crazy.
So I can watch it later.
What's that, Bob? I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, I just pulled up your video so I can watch it later.
Oh, okay. So the Alpaca thing, I think it's really cool. They've got some really good ideas. I love the idea of a scroll wheel on a controller, and I've seen a lot of people talk about having scroll wheels as your bumpers. I think that would be cool as one more input to make it even more complicated for new gamers to learn.
That's possible.
All right. Anybody else have favorite controllers or controller features that they really would like to see in controllers? Raise your hand or just start going. All right. We got one last super chat. This one's directly from to Carrie. They said, Carrie, you need to try Chained Echoes. I don't know why they're calling you out, man, but I
actually started playing Chained. Yeah, it's good. It's really good. Chained Echo. I put like about 8 hours into it, and then bounced off of it. Not because I didn't like it, but yeah. Thank you for the shout out. I do enjoy it. I just need to finish it.
There's a demo for Sea of Stars today too. So if anybody's interested in Sea of Stars alongside that Chained Echoes recommendation, now's your time to try it.
Well, that's right, because it's Steam Next Fest, isn't it?
Yep.
Anybody have any demos that, other than Chained Echoes and Sea of Stars, that you guys think people need to try out?
Viewfinder.
That was the one. I haven't tried it yet, but Viewfinder for sure.
Is it like when we were kids, the Viewfinder?
No, it's like a perspective puzzle game. So like a MC
really
Escher
cool
kind of thing, but yeah.
Yeah, really cool. Check it out.
Awesome. Anybody else have demos that they want to shout out real quick? Okay.
I played Final Fantasy 16. That was awesome. Not on next week. That was awesome.
I want to play that. I want to play it, but I'm going to wait, and I just have too many friggin' games to play. Dan the Red Devil says Lies of P, which I have not tried, but I think Russ, you said, or not Russ, damn it, I did it again. Rich, you said that you played it on your Steam Deck and the performance was pretty good?
No, Noah did. So Steam Deck HQ, he played it on the Steam Deck, and he said it worked well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome. All right. Well, hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. It's just a huge thank you to Bob for joining us on the show today. Bob, can you tell everybody where everybody knows where your stuff is, but tell them where to find it anyway, because, maybe somebody's never heard of you, which is ridiculous.
Wolf Den, spelled WULFF. Everywhere, anywhere, wherever you want. That's fine.
Do you also have WULLF? Just in case?
That would be smart. Or WLF. People misspell my name all different ways, and it's not their fault. It's spelled stupidly.
That's fair. So make sure you guys head on over to Wolf Den and click subscribe and all the other social media garbage, as he likes to say. Carrie, where can people find all of your stuff?
I'm on the Fox on YouTube.
And nobody knows how to spell that one either. That's PHAWX on YouTube. Russ is going to spell something for us.
I'm at Retro Game Corps, and that's CORPS, like Marine Corps. Yeah.
And Rich, where can people find all of your stuff?
Fan the Deck on YouTube.
Fan the Deck. And Kyle?
Cryobyte 33. I'll spell too. CRYOBYTE 33.
And you could find all of my stuff over at the NerdNest. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with us for the live show. And I want to apologize to everybody for my computer not quite being able to handle 6 people at the same time, recording and streaming at the same time. So if there's some hiccups in it, that's why. But thank you to everybody for being here for the show. And we will see you guys on the next one. Until then, stay rad, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.